Hey everyone, welcome back. We're going to be talking about basic and advanced inputs. So let's take a guess. Which are the most complex components? If you've guessed inputs, then you are probably correct. They may look simple, but in reality, due to their versatility, different states, and frequent use, they can be very hard to figure out. But when you do get inputs right and they're designed well, they allow users to input data in a way that is quick, easy, and correct. Let's jump right in. So we have our basic inputs. There are a variety of input types that we use to collect user data, depending on what type of questions or requirements your form may have. You'll need to pick the right one. So we have the basic text field. These text fields are used for short written responses. Users can probably only add one line of text here, and if their text does get too long, it will automatically scroll the content left so you can continue to see what you are entering. The next one we have here is the text area. Sometimes you may need to incorporate an input for longer responses. This is where the text area comes into play. These are taller than a regular text field and allow for users to enter multiple lines of text. When the text does reach the bottom of the container, it will automatically expand downwards. Some text areas will actually allow users to adjust the width and height manually. So you can do that like this. Drop-down menus. Now these ones are fun. You can call them selects as well. These are used when there are multiple options a user needs to choose from. When you click the input, a menu will appear below where the user will see the predefined options. When a user selects an option, it will appear in the input field that they just clicked. It's best to use drop-down menus when a user needs to select from more than 5 options. So they typically look like this. You open, closed. When you click on it, it opens. That's basically the drop-down. Okay. Let's get into the checkbox and the radio buttons. They look very similar, don't they? So checkboxes on the top are typically used when there are one or multiple options for the user to select from. Users can make multiple selections here. Try using these when there are 4 or less options to choose from, so you don't have a super long list. Now, radio buttons. Like I said, they look pretty similar to the checkbox, but the interaction is entirely different. These are used for multiple options, but, and this is big, users can only select one option here. Similar to the checkbox, try keeping the options to 4 or less. Let's get into something a little bit more fun though. Advanced inputs. Oops, let's zoom out so we can find them. Here we go. I have several here. And let's zoom in. There we go. Okay, so sometimes these inputs are not enough for what we are asking of the user. I'm talking about the basic inputs. Some questions can get pretty complex and also some interactions. Let's look at some examples here. So multi-select text fields are really great. They kind of function very similar to a text area, but you type inside of them. And as you type, you can, select like a new option. You've probably used this in some time in your life, maybe adding like some of your interests to something or adding like different types of things that you do well or whatever. Now, these fields allow our users to add multiple inputs. Generally, when a user enters an input, it will be displayed as like a little chip, as you see here, or a pill. And the user can add another. Users are able to remove chips that they've previously entered, so they could click on like an X or another icon. Most of the time, it's going to be an X. Okay, now the drop-down search. If there are a bunch of options within your drop-down menu, you should consider adding a contextual search. The way this interaction works is when a user begins typing, available options that will match the user's search will filter. It saves the user a bunch of time. So think about like address pickers that are basically the data pipeline is hooked up to the United States Postal Service in the US. But when you search up an address, you'll have a bunch of different options pop out and you can easily select one of them. And the last I'm going to get into right now is the date picker. Date pickers are used when we want our user to select a date or a range. This view will show all available dates, months, etc. This can also be done differently, like with single line inputs or radio buttons as well. So that's all we have right now for basic and advanced inputs.